written in the stars. Clara sat on her bunk, reading her astrology chart, smiling at the predictions for her summer and dreaming of nights filled with stargazing by the lake. Daniel sighed as he tossed his science magazine onto his bed, muttering about how the camp's constant activities left no time for serious thinking. As the counselors gathered everyone by the campfire, Clara caught sight of Daniel rolling his eyes at her zodiac t-shirt, igniting her irritation. "You don't actually believe that stuff, do you?" he asked, voice full of disbelief as Clara proudly showed him her cosmic star pendant. Clara met his skeptical gaze, declaring that astrology had guided her life for years, adding that it was more real than he'd ever understand. Daniel smirked, countering that science, not superstition, guided reality, and it wouldn't change just because people wished otherwise. Their heated exchange drew the attention of other campers, but Clara was too focused on proving that there was magic in the stars. The next day, Clara led a small group of campers to a clearing, eagerly explaining the astrological signs and constellations visible in the night sky. Daniel watched from afar, amused at the rapt attention of Clara's audience but unable to shake his growing curiosity about her passion. One night, Daniel wandered to the lakeside and found Clara with her telescope, explaining the constellations to another camper. He listened as she spoke about each star sign's personality traits, blending mythology with star patterns, captivating even him. Clara noticed him in the shadows, but instead of dismissing him, she handed him the telescope, challenging him to find the Big Dipper. Hesitant, Daniel looked through the telescope, realizing how awe-inspiring the stars were, even if he didn't believe in their cosmic power. Clara's enthusiasm softened as she explained her belief wasn't about accuracy but about connecting with something bigger than herself. The next day, during a hike, Daniel caught up to her, asking why she needed astrology when there were concrete answers in science. She laughed, saying that science couldn't explain everything, like how people felt or why the night sky felt so mysteriously powerful. Intrigued, Daniel suggested they investigate both angles, combining science and astrology to see if there were any surprising connections. Clara agreed, excited by his openness, and the two spent their days researching astrology's origins, linking myths with celestial events. Daniel began to notice how Clara's outlook changed the way she saw the world, finding wonder where he saw only logical explanations. One evening, as they sat by the lake, Clara shared her fear of losing her belief, admitting it helped her make sense of uncertain times. Daniel opened up about his desire to find solid ground in facts, revealing he feared the chaos of things he couldn't understand. They watched the sky darken, stars appearing one by one, both feeling oddly comforted by their differences, despite their arguments. As a shooting star streaked across the sky, Clara teased Daniel, asking if he'd dare to make a wish, though he insisted he wouldn't. But he secretly wished for clarity, sensing something he couldn't explain between him and Clara, making him question everything. Days passed, and the campers noticed Clara and Daniel's constant bickering was laced with an energy none could quite understand. During an evening stargazing session, Clara pointed out Venus, the planet of love, claiming it might work its charm on skeptics. Daniel raised an eyebrow, playfully challenging her to prove it, though his heart pounded faster as their gazes met under the stars. They spent hours discussing their dreams, finding comfort in sharing hopes that seemed ridiculous or impossible under normal circumstances. Clara shared her wish to one day map out the stars as they'd been viewed by ancient civilizations, preserving lost wisdom. Daniel admitted his ambition to uncover new scientific truths, chasing answers to questions no one had dared to ask before. As summer drew on, Clara began to understand the comfort Daniel found in logic, while Daniel saw the wonder that Clara found in belief. During a meteor shower, they sat close, watching the sky dance, each secretly wondering if destiny had a hand in bringing them together. Clara confessed she'd never imagined she'd connect with someone who challenged her so deeply, yet respected her passion. Daniel found himself marveling at how her spirit had softened his cynicism, making him more open to ideas he'd once scoffed at. They stood by the lake's edge, their hands accidentally brushing, sending a spark between them as the stars twinkled above. Slowly, Clara's belief in the stars' influence became less about prediction and more about the beauty of their presence. One night, Daniel pointed out that both science and astrology searched for patterns, each a way of making sense of existence. Clara nodded, acknowledging that while they approached life differently, both paths led to similar questions and the desire for meaning. As the campfire crackled nearby, Daniel admitted he no longer viewed her beliefs as ridiculous but rather as something beautiful. Clara, moved by his honesty, realized that differences didn't have to divide them but could inspire a deeper understanding of each other. When they looked up at the sky, Clara pointed out Saturn, symbolizing commitment, and wondered aloud if the stars had spoken to them. Daniel laughed, saying it might be one coincidence worth believing, though he suspected their connection was as real as it felt. Clara grew more curious about science, and Daniel more open to ideas beyond evidence, both challenging each other in surprising ways. The more they explored, the more they found common ground, blending curiosity and wonder as they pieced together the stars. Near the camp's end, Clara suggested a final stargazing session, where they could say goodbye to the stars and each other. They lay side by side on a blanket, watching the cosmos, their hands intertwined, needing no words to fill the gentle silence. As the night deepened, Daniel whispered he'd never forget the summer they'd spent finding magic in each other's company. Clara replied that while astrology brought them together, the real magic had always been in the connection they'd formed. The night before camp ended, they met under the stars one last time, silently promising to carry this summer's memory forever. Their final embrace was under a sky full of stars, each one a witness to the journey they'd taken together, heart by heart. Back home, Clara studied constellations with a newfound curiosity, while Daniel experimented with questions he'd once dismissed. They wrote letters, each sharing their continued discoveries, finding comfort in knowing their bond was as enduring as the stars. Clara believed their paths would cross again, knowing fate was as intricate as the stars' alignments, unseen but forever present. Daniel, now understanding how belief could be beautiful, began to trust in the things he couldn't measure but could feel. Years later, they met under the stars once more, sharing stories of how they'd grown, each one changed by the other's influence. They realized love had no boundaries, no defined paths, only the feeling of connection that had blossomed so naturally between them. With the night sky above, they laughed, knowing that whether it was destiny, coincidence, or science, what mattered was the love they shared. Holding hands, they gazed at the constellations, knowing their love was written in the stars, just as it had always been. As they walked away, they felt the stars watching, a reminder that love, like the universe, could not always be explained but was meant to be cherished.